Rejection. It is the backbone of a founder's experience in so many ways, and it's something that I've had to get used to over and over and over again. Something that I used to take personally, but what I learned was actually criticism and rejection can be one of the biggest catalysts for growth and discovering alignment. So, in this video, we're going to go into the ways that you can reframe and position rejection to actually have it be one of your biggest assets on the founder's journey and not the thing that breaks you. There is something really unique, I think, about the way an entrepreneur is able to withstand the level of rejection required to actually succeed. You know, there was a conversation I was having with a friend the other week, and she was reminding me that the average amount of no's before a founder gets a yes in an investment round is 100. Now, that is a considerable amount of rejection, because you think about often an investor is not just saying, I'm going to have a 20-minute meeting with you and then I'm going to give you a no. They normally, drag you through a relative due diligence process. It can go on for weeks or months. And so to go through that process 100 times and have that feel like a dead-end road, the reality is most people take that as a sign that it's something that they're not meant to be doing and they quit. And it's because they don't have the obsession that I think the innate entrepreneur really does. There's a problem that they will solve at any cost. And it's important you recognize this in yourself too, right? Because I know that the lengths that I'll go to accomplish my mission can often mean that I lose a sense of the reality, around me. And I think that that's actually important in an entrepreneur's journey. Is there's got to be a level of delusion, because you're doing impossible things. You're trying to accomplish something that has never been done before, and you're starting from scratch, especially if this is a first-time venture for you. It's a massive amount to take on. Most people would look at it and be like, this is an insane thing to do. I'm never going to pursue that. I'm going to go back to my zone of comfortability. And there have been personality tests that have actually shown that entrepreneurs' appetite for risk and willingness and capability to be in an ambiguous state, for prolonged periods of time, there is a substantially higher disposition an entrepreneur has to, say, a more kind of everyday employee that has the security of an employment contract and a job. And this is a massive strength that you need to give yourself credit for, and you need to understand that with that strength comes a massive process of growth through your venture that's helping you develop a character strong enough to really withstand anything that comes your way. And this isn't true, exclusively in the rejection you might face trying to pitch to investors or trying to get your first series of clients and experiencing that rejection. This is something that's important for you to understand holistically in your journey. I see a lot of founders really struggle when they're needing to move into more of an executive leadership role because their team is growing. And this is the time where I see a lot of founders get mistreated by their boards, that they get put under pressure to actually leave the company as CEO. There's a lot of expectations around them to really go through that process and handle that process with the determination, the grit, and the grace that you're going to need to really see your company through all the way to an exit or the equivalent, whatever your vision there is. You're going to need to develop this kind of bulletproof character that balances, strong leadership ethics and enough kind of emotional availability so that your team feel connected to you and inspired by you, but also the reservation and the privacy, the strength that comes from the right amount of reservation and privacy is also really important to understand. And so when it comes to these moments of rejection, one of the things I've learnt to do, and sometimes this was because there was literally no other option for me, was to not go and talk about that rejection with, every other person and kind of inflate that story, because I think it can become this kind of, this energy that just grows and grows and grows unless it's managed in the right way. Every time that I've gotten a no from an investor, I do my best to take that in my stride, to feel into where the lessons are, what I could have done better, and really have my own internal process of strength that allows me to leave it where it is and not take that with me as baggage into the next conversation and the next conversation, because there is, you know, a reality to those rejections wearing you down. And what you don't want to do is step into that 100th meeting, which could be a yes, with this, you know, defeated demeanor and this deflated energy because you're anticipating that rejection. And I think the only way to combat that, because it's natural, you know, every human's going to go through that when they get, you know, kicked in the guts or hit or punched in the face over and over and over again. You know, you're kind of like, you're bracing yourself, waiting for that to happen again. You can combat that if you be constructive in the face of each of these rejections and be proactive. You know, it's like, one of my advisors was sharing the approach that one of her other mentees, you know, took when she was raising her, I think it was her Series B round, and she went to the US and basically scheduled, I think she said something like 300 meetings. That is so much potential rejection, right? But when you have a horizon where you're like, over the next 6 months, I'm going to take 300 meetings, your horizon is so broad, you know, as you move through those meetings. And I think keeping your options open and not, I've definitely made this mistake before, investing really, really heavily into only a couple of relationships and then feeling kind of completely emotionally exhausted if they don't go the way that you wanted them to go, versus staying open, staying agile, constantly thinking about other pathways of possibility for yourself. This keeps you in an open state, which is very, very important to maintain, even when you're going through these endless, you know, cycles of, or what feel like endless cycles of rejection. You've got to believe that it's getting you closer to the right, you know, relationships and the right doors opening.